Oh, we got a lot to talk about. This is the 5th time I've done this. 5. Every time when I'm trying to explain something, before even getting into the show, I feel like I'm talking too much about what I want to talk at the end of this review of Bound for Glory. So what I'm going to do this time, instead of trying to explain my feelings, I'm going to wait until after I do the entire show, and then I'm going to do it. Instead of trying to do it now when I know I don't want to just spoil something that I've been thinking about, what I've been working on. I was working on, now I can't. But let's go to the Hall of Fame. When we see the Hall of Fame, it was on YouTube. We got 2 Hall of Fame inductings. Well, actually it's 3, but it was more 1 and 1 because there's no Down West. But let's talk about Tracy Brooks. It was Gail Kim who inducted her, as we already know. And everyone was very interested. Admittedly, there was one guy that was in the audience who was going like this, who didn't look like he was interested at all. I could be wrong, but he might even been not interested or he was emotional. I don't know which one. Either he was wearing glasses with black hair and a mustache. And I don't know if he was bored or he was emotional. Later, he looked like he was really interested, but when you see the Hall of Fame, he just didn't look like he was interested or he was upset. I don't know. But when Gail Kim explained her feelings about when she and Tracy started and broke into the business together, basically, they both started around 2000. Tracy Brooks was a little more seasoned, I think, by a little bit because she knew a little bit of wrestling before Gail did. And when they met one another in the training school they were in, is when they have now a lifelong friendship that is more like having a new sister than it is having a best friend. I will not tell you it was bad. It was okay. Now, let's be honest, Gail Kim is not one of the greatest talkers, but it doesn't mean she did bad. Then Tracy Brooks came out with her son Rebel and her husband Cass. And he looking all dapper and cool, walking over to the ring and sitting down with his son. And I will tell you this. I wish they had started this earlier and gave more time to each. Because this was done within 30 minutes, guys. It was roughly, what? Tracy Brooks had, 15 minutes to talk? Maybe 14? And Mike Tenay had a little bit more than that. Maybe 15, 17 minutes. Why couldn't they just done a whole 45 minutes? Would have been a little better. I'm not saying to have an hour, 30 minutes of Tracy talking and 30 minutes of Mike Tenay. But at least give them both more than that. 40 minutes? You couldn't have started the show at 7:20? The Hall of Fame ceremony? I would have liked to have 20 minutes for Tracy and 20 minutes for Mike Tenay. Because that would have been more better. But let's put this in perspective. Tracy talked fast. But the most incredible thing is that not only did she talk very quickly, she was still poignant. She was still emotional, warm. And it was interesting to hear what she said. But I'm not going to lie here. Seeing that she was rushing through her notes, just in case she was talking too long because of Mike Tenay, I think was not the wisest thing to do. I really do believe they should have gave them both 20 minutes each instead of roughly 15. One of them 14 minutes, and it felt like Tracy had 14 minutes. And Mike Tenay had maybe 17 minutes. That's how it looked like to me. She showed respect to the business. She showed respect to Gail Kim. She loved her son and said, you have the opportunity to follow your dreams. Follow it. Look what your parents have done. Your dad's still wrestling. A 25-year career where it's still going to new heights. Me, I'm the 3rd ever knockout in history to become inducted into the Hall of Fame. And she was the first woman that worked in the company that had the most prominence and made sure that women that came after her had something to work with. I give her respect. Now, for me personally, because I've said this myself, I didn't start watching the product until 2010. I did get some DVDs at the time back in 2008. So I did not see the beginnings of TNA. I'm trying not to go there. I didn't see the beginnings of the company. I didn't. I didn't have cable, so I couldn't see it. Yes, in 2000 something, I couldn't afford cable. I had a lot of bills to pay. Child support, and paying my bills of regular, and also paying back student loans. I owed a lot of bills, and including a credit card that I had to run up because of an emergency in the family. I had a lot of bills to pay, so I had no cable, so I could not watch the company. But I did eventually get to see that, as you already know, because I've been watching it since 2010 and have been doing reviews since 2012. And I'm proud of the work I've done, and I'm glad to see she's being honored. Now, Mike Tenay and Don West being inducted together. As many people have heard me already say, they haven't complained, but this is my perspective. I wish Don West had been inducted this year and Mike Tenay inducted next year. I know people will say, you can't do that. They both worked together. They both were so close friends. People loved them. They introduced, as Mike Tenay said, that we introduced people in together. That's what we did. We loved doing it. We loved doing things together. We loved doing our job and made it special. And I'm not taking anything from that. But if Don had been alive, I think it would have been much more easier to deal with for me personally. Because since Don had passed on, I felt that since he did contribute so much to the company, I did hear at the tail end of whenever he could still go on the mic, before he got very sick, I heard him, and I can understand why people loved him so much. I do. And that's the reason why I think he should have been given this one honor by himself. Not taking anything away from Mike Tenay, going with him, but this felt more about honoring Don than it felt honoring Mike and Don. That's the reason why I wanted Don to be introduced into the Hall of Fame and Mike Tenay doing it, and then Mike Tenay next year, because this felt like it was almost all about Don West. And yeah, Mike did speak. Mike talked about his own life. Mike talked about how hard he had it and what Don threw, and it made sense. But it didn't feel like it was, how can I say this? It didn't feel like Mike Tenay had his moment. It just didn't. It was more about honoring Don. This is the reason why I wanted it like that. I wanted Don to be honored and inducted this year and Mike next year. And then if you needed to, you could induct him again, Mike Tenay, when they were both together. And that's what you could have done. That's what Impact could have done. They could have inducted Mike Tenay twice and Don twice together as the greatest commentary team in wrestling. And the thing that was really good that Mike Tenay talked about, and I did recognize myself when Don passed on, it was AEW and WWE that recognized him even though he never worked in the company. That showed the people that he worked with that were in AEW and that WWE, they could not ignore him. They said, look, we knew this guy. He was one of the greatest commentary next to a JR, next to Michael Cole, next to anyone you know. You got to honor him. And they did, which I appreciated. But like I said, and I said this before, Don should have been inducted by himself. And then Mike could have been inducted next year. And if you really wanted to make it feel important, induct them both together the year after that. I feel that would have been more appropriate, because it could have been 100% about Mike next year. That's how I feel. But let's move on. First match, which was a good match, but it looked a bit telegraphed. And that was Kenta versus Chris Sabin for the X Division Championship. Unless Kenta was going to stay in the company, I did not expect him to win here. But seeing how Kenta acted made me actually happy to see that he was acting like a decently good heel. Now, I got to say this for me personally. Seeing the product over the years, they usually make Mexican wrestlers, whenever they really push them correctly, and Japanese wrestlers, whenever they push them correctly, important. Now, I'm not saying they do it greater than AEW, but at least they make it feel more important when you got them. Because in WWE, I'm being honest, Akira Tozawa should leave the company. right now. They've done nothing with him. And the key, would he want to leave? But to be honest, I don't think he wants to because he's doing pretty well. Particularly that he was working on Monday Night Raw with Alpha Academy, going with the weights like this. And I'm going like, he needs to leave. But if he's satisfied with getting this, you can't make him leave if they're not going to throw him out. If he's satisfied, that's it. But me personally seeing Akira Tozawa, nope. But seeing Kenta here, I liked it. I wish Kenta would work with Impact more. I gotta say it. Impact more often. I gotta say it. But seeing that at least he came, he had a great match with him, and in the end, even though it felt telegraphed, it was not a bad match. It was a good one. Next. The Monsters Ball match. Oh. PCO. Rhino. Moose. Macklin. Let's put this in perspective. Who got beaten up the most? PCO. Guys, I don't even know if I got the image at one point because it was brutal. The opening of it, they didn't even get to the ring. Rhino went out first. Didn't even get all the way down to the ring before Moose or Macklin attacked him. And then PCO came out. And then I think PCO was right after Moose. Yeah. But let's make this clear. This was a brutal match. Look. PCO went under the ring, grabbed some thumbtacks in the black bag. It's obvious. Then he gets beaten up by Moose, thrown outside. And then when I see Moose, instead of putting the tacks into the ring, he put the tacks onto the cinder blocks, white cinder blocks. And PCO gets spine busted onto it, where he's not having one tack in his back. He's got 4 tacks in the back of his freaking head. I don't even know if I got the shot. If I do, it's right in my face. Guys, PCO is one of the most toughest son of a bitches you can see at a guy who's roughly older than me by maybe 3 or 4 years. This guy should not be doing what he's doing. In fact, when he did a de-animator on Macklin, I think he landed on his freaking head, got back up, and still kept going. I know the way he landed his de-animator, he was off when he did it. And instead of landing and rolling, he landed right here on the side of his head. I don't have a shot of it, but damn, that guy can take a lot. And then getting spine busted on cinder blocks with thumbtacks that were not just stuck here, 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 here. It was stuck 1, 2, 3, 4 in his freaking neck and head. Crazy bastard that won the match. But here's the thing. I think this might be the last match of PCO. I'm not sure. Because I think someone left a comment about a week or 2 ago, easily, that PCO's contract is coming up. And I don't think they're going to renew it. Either he's not renewing it or Impact is not renewing it. So this might be one of the few times we see him like a Sami Callihan, where we don't even know where he's going. Either he's going to WWE or AEW. I don't know where he's going. But this might be the last of PCO. We don't know yet. We have no idea. But we will find eventually. He won the match. And I'm going like, shit. I'm telling you. Seeing that these guys literally tried to beat the shit out of each other. And the thing that not many people think about. This is not like an ordinary, like Falls Count Anywhere. It's not like a Last Man Standing match. It's not like a street fight, even though it has street fight feel easily. Seeing that they're trying to say we lock these guys up for 24 hours in a room, in the dark, with no food, no water, just being aggressive. That also added to the ambiance of the match. Seeing when right before the match happened, each one of them was released. Seeing that Macklin, when the door was open, he's going like this because he can't see, even though he probably could. Counting on how long he was in there, maybe he was in there 15 minutes or 10 minutes, just to make it look good. So when he comes out, he has to squint because being in that darkness, when you go into bright light, you will squint until your eyes adjust. So that was a good a good take on it. It's not something that's brand new, of course. This has been going on for years when it comes to Monsters Ball. Generally, well, not every Monsters Ball, but most. Was a good take. And seeing each of them come out having that attitude was fine. Now, here's where it got interesting for me personally during the match. Because hearing that it was Moose who went through some of really nasty matches, but knowing that Rhino was in the first match and that he's only done one match, and that was, 14 years ago. And it was a 3-way, I believe, or fatal 4-way as well. That's kind of an accolade for a Rhino, something that's special for him. Of course, he didn't win, but here's the big question. Now that PCO won the match, what happens now to a Macklin? What happens now to Rhino? What happens to Moose? Now, Moose, we already know, he does have a Feast of Fire briefcase, which gives him a shot against the champion. He does. So we will be seeing the next challenger for the champion that I will be talking about later. But you already know who won. But you know, I'm just making it fair. Next, the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. We got 20 participants. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We got more than a few returns. One, an extremely old return. One that has never been there. And one that I know that one particular person named Stefan. You're going to be so happy, but then you're not going to be happy because he wasn't really given much of an option. That's Johnny Swinger. Johnny, all right, before we go through this, let's go through generally what was the start of the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a gauntlet that's basically a battle royal. But unlike WWE or AEW, it's every 60 seconds. And in this respect, whoever is the last two, they get a standard match afterward. Now, Eddie Edwards and Jake Something started it. Jake was the one who started as number one because he lost against Dango. Dango was the one who won the gauntlet, and Jake Something was the one who had to start it as one, and Dango would be 20. Not surprising. Eddie was number two, which was alright. We got the first person that was eliminated. Let me see if I can remember. Kenny King. He was number 3 that came in, and he was the first one out. Now, I'm not too surprised, because what's been going on with Kenny and him wanting to get his title back didn't really help him much. He got his ass out. The person that was surprising was Juventud Guerrero. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I never watched Juice's matches much at all. I never saw him. I saw a little bit of him in the around 2011 or 12 or something. That's when I saw him. Only other time I saw him, live, when it came to the company at that time. The most, I think, is on one of the DVDs I had. I had Lockdown, and I think I still have my Genesis, but I had a Lockdown DVD that I lent somebody, and they kept it. So I think he was on that show, and I think that was 2007 or 8 of Lockdown, I think. I can't remember because I don't have the DVD anymore. But that might have been the only other time I saw him other than in the 2010s. And I think that was maybe once or twice. And that's just if it was. It's been a long time since he's been back from what I understand. Now, Matt Cardona came back. It was nice to see him. He looked great. He looked like that. The next person that showed up, which I was surprised to see, which I don't know if this person will be working Impact, is Sonny Kiss. Mr. Bubble Butt himself. Or is it herself? I don't even know if he calls himself a she. I'm not into that. Don't know. I think he calls himself a he, but people care about pronouns. But I am being honest and showing that if he's going to be in that type of attitude, he has to be recognized at least for what he is. So there'll be no confusion. So if he does stay in Impact Wrestling, because he's not with AEW anymore, if he's there, at least when we see the character, I can understand and break it down. Because if he's acting like a male, so be it. If he's acting like a female, so be it. We gotta know which one's which. when, I got to do my friend. I have to do it. I got to talk about Johnny Swinger because I skipped it and went to HooBeTube. Let's make this clear when it comes to Stefan. I know you're happy that you saw him in Bound for Glory and the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. I know that's what you wanted, and you wanted him to win the damn thing. And I'm sure nobody wanted him to win except you. Now, for me personally, he could have won, but the question would have been, would they really do anything with him? I did tell you they were being more serious in Impact. I did say it, didn't I? And in this situation, he didn't last very long. He got his ass basically destroyed and then almost got stabbed with a fork from Steve. Steve came out, messed with everybody, and pretty much was about to stab Swinger in the head because he was going to go after Kenny, which by the time Kenny got out, he was out. But then Tommy came, stopped Steve, and then Steve had to be escorted out by security. But we will be seeing Steve dealing with a Tommy eventually. So, okay. Let me give it to you like this. Seeing everyone else was fine, but seeing that nearing the end, you had Kylan King, you had Bully Ray, you had Jordan Grace, and we did see Gresham. But the thing that got me with Gresham, since he is the husband of a Jordan Grace, and he basically managed to kick out Kylan King with a t-shirt. I didn't catch what happened because they didn't show the camera angle on it. But what happened, I'm sure, had to happen. He rolled that bitch up, whacked his own woman in the ass with it. Because when they showed it, they said, oh man, he did not just do that with his own. That's his own wife. That means next to him trying to eliminate his own wife, he rolled up that shirt, wound it up, and smacked her on the ass because that is his wife. So he was being very, very, very playful with his woman in that match. And I guess he knew what was about to happen because we are getting to the end. Because what happened was the last two that was there was Bully Ray and Jordan Grace. And let's make this clear. If it had been Alicia Edwards, it would have been not believable. If it had been anyone else, like a Gazelle Shaw, it would not be believable. A Deonna Purrazzo would not be believable. Maybe, of course, it would be, let me give it to you, Savannah Evans, it would be believable her to be able to go nose to nose with a Bully Ray. Or who I'm surprised wasn't there, a Jessica, because of both of them being very large women. They're not as tall as Bully Ray, but they're big enough that they could go nose to nose with him. Now, when it comes to Jordan Grace, that's different. We know that she is not ordinarily a big wrestler. She's not. But we do know that she's a power lifter. And as a power lifter who literally set records in her own home state that she's living in, she set world records there for the state world record. Well, not world record for the Guinness Book of World Record, but basically the state record for lifting up to at least 300 to 400 pounds of weight. Physically, she could not only go nose to nose with him, she could lift his ass up off the ground. He's over 300 pounds. He's nearly 300 pounds or over 300. That's Bully Ray. He's not a small guy. He's near or over 300. And seeing that she physically could lift his ass off the mat, physically could do it, it's believable that she, the Juggernaut, could beat. And what did she do? She did a freaking Grace driver on him. Now, of course, Bully Ray had to help her by rolling up into a bowl so she can lift him up and throw him onto the mat. But she did do it. She could do it. She's physically strong enough to do it. And she won the damn match as the first knockout in history. Now, this is the thing for me personally that makes me happy. That I was not happy when it came to the company years ago. Particularly when it came to a Tessa Blanchard. I didn't hate Tessa. But they made it about a woman. Not about a smaller wrestler who has never been given an opportunity. They did mention it that she's the first knockout to ever win the Call Your Gauntlet challenge. No problem. But when she spoke, because she held the trophy in her arms, well, not in her arms, in her hand, because she is strong enough to be able to lift that damn thing. She's literally strong enough to do it. She said, it feels good to make history. Not, it feels good to make history as a woman. No. She made it about, as a smaller wrestler, she's glad she made history. It didn't matter about her sex. Not sect. Look, guys, I'm going to give it to you like this. For me personally, one of the pet peeves I have, stereotypes is not something I 100% like. There are times when it makes sense, and when there's times when it doesn't. In this situation, she's already been working with the men on and off for years. And at this point, for her having to mention her sex is not necessary. This is 2023 where people want to be thought of as equal. And if you're going to be equal, you can't mention your sex. You got to mention as a wrestler. She made history. No problem with it. They mentioned that she made history. But she didn't need to say anything about her sex, which she did. And now, Hard to Kill, she's going after the Knockouts Championship. No problem. Also, Moose, during the interview after his match at Monsters Ball, even though he lost, he made it clear, whoever wins the main event, I'm going after them at Hard to Kill as well. That's what he said. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad it happened. It was the way it should be. Now, we did not get the Knockouts Tag Championships on this show. I was thinking maybe they would show, but it didn't happen. It was okay. Sometimes you can't fit absolutely everything on the show. And it's when it comes to Tasha Steelz and Deonna Purrazzo, I guess they thought there was just not enough room on the show for that. And they wanted to keep it at a certain length. Now, the next match. Will Osprey versus Mike Bailey. I know I could have mentioned it earlier. I chose not to because I wanted to do the call your shot. Let me give it to you like this. Was this the best match of the night for the men? Yes. Taking nothing away from the ending match, because that's more story driven than it is match and quality driven. I'm telling you now, as someone who likes a well-rounded match, if you're going by story, that match, the ending match, is number one. But if you're going by just pure match quality as a high-flying wrestling fan and a high-impact wrestling fan, in other words, not impact wrestling, I'm just meaning that the way current wrestling is, where they do high impact, high flying, and a lot of counters. This is what you got with Osprey and you got with Mike Speed. I'm going to tell you this. It hurts knowing that Will Osprey is not part of the company. He was so over with the crowd in Chicago. He was. And so was Speedball. They both were over. It was done well. And the psychology of the match, unfortunately, was not reflective of that. It doesn't mean the match was bad. It was not. It was a very high impact and in many cases high flying match in certain points. That's what it was more about anything. And not everyone's going to like that. They're going to say this is another bump fest. And mostly it was. But I'm not going to tell you that you'd be 100% bored with it, because you won't. There'll be parts of that match that are traditional enough that you could like it. I'm not going to lie to you. Seeing false starts on pins, seeing so many counters that it became a blur, that was a major problem. Not many people are going to like this match, but I'm telling you as somebody who likes a well-rounded match that does have some aerials, some grapple, and psychology. You got, how can I say this? You got high flying, some grapple, some psychology, but not much. It's a lot of high flying with some grapple and some high flying and some psychology. That's what you got. But I am going to tell you, from the very opening of that match, I did not expect Will to job here. I just cannot see him jobbing to Speedball. And understand, I like Speedball. I honestly do. I love his music. But I'm telling you the truth. There was no way I saw Speedball, he was going to job here. There was no way he was going to job for him. There's just, even though they've known each other for a while, they've faced each other for a while, and Speedball has lost to him multiple times, there was just no way I was going to see Speedball not job to him. The reason I kind of botch here is because if Bailey and Osprey has more than one match, which I doubt he will, he's still working for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He is now the IWGP, not US champion, but the UK champion, United Kingdom champion. I understand why they did that. It's actually pretty clever. You got the same title for so many years, imitating America. You want to try and change it up. He probably said, hey, let me try something. Let me turn this into a European championship. And they're going with it, and probably they're making some very good this. I'm actually good at that. I'm good with that. But seeing that he has really good chemistry with Speedball, whether you like high flying or not, or false starts and a whole bunch of Impact like that, I would love to see him more in Impact Wrestling. But he probably will be going into AEW and Don Callis. I do not think he won't go to Don Callis' family once he goes to AEW. It makes the best sense. Even though I would rather see him there, because I think he could bring a lot of interest to the product if they're willing to go there with it. Hell, I want to see him go up against, you know who. I want to see him go up against Chris Sabin or Alex Shelley for their damn titles. I would love to see him go up against Alex Shelley for the World Championship or the X Division. That would be great. Now, let's get to the match that I was really, really, really waiting for. Trinity versus Mickie James. Guys, you know me. I have been reviewing wrestling for 11 years. One of the first people I was reviewing was Trinity, former Naomi. I've made videos on this woman, wanting her to have better character. Like, I did one video, and it's somewhere in all my 2,000 videos, which is probably in the beginning, maybe the first 500 or 300 that I made, of Trinity becoming Naomi the Dark Knight, trying to act more violent or sexualized like a Killer Kelly, crawling on her opponents and when she beats them. That's what I thought for Naomi back then, at least, 10 years ago? 8 to 10 years ago, that's what I thought. She needed to change her character. At one point, I said she needs to leave the company. If anyone's seen that video, or a few of them, I've said she's done everything she can. They're not doing anything with her. Give Naomi a chance. Dude, she just needs to leave. And I never thought she would until finally she did. And now look what she's done. She's now reached the point where she is so over with the fans that Feel the Glow works. She may not get the fans cheering, but seeing them with glow sticks every time when she comes out, and there's almost everyone in the arena every single time, that means something. No matter how small or big the arena is, Trinity is over so much. They're not taking that title off her too soon. But I gotta say this, and this was the most important thing. When it really comes down to it, she needed a win against a very old good friend, which I'm not surprised that actually happened, because I knew Trinity always put her heart on her sleeve that she was a great woman. I always knew it. Before Total Divas came out, I always knew that she had something special. And that's what Mickie James saw in her. And now she has a chance to give Trinity, a great friend, a chance at a match that would really put her over. For the future of not just the company if she stays, but when she leaves the company and maybe goes to AEW, or just thinking about it makes me worry WWE. I'm just saying. This was the second best match of the night for me personally, in story and in match quality. They both knew each other well enough. They both knew how to handle each other well enough. Seeing that they both mirrored each other in certain ways, that Mickie already knew a majority of Trinity's moves, and so did Trinity know Mickie James. And certain points when they were having the match, knowing full well that either one of them would take advantage of the other one, they did everything they could to avoid each other. Trinity and Mickey actually rolled out of the ring at the same time when they banged into each other. When normally wrestlers would just lay flat, they had enough experience to both roll out of the ring at the same time onto the floor to make sure neither one of them could actually pin the other. It was a great match where, admittedly, I'm kind of surprised the fans did not cheer at first. Now, that could have been the mics, because, let's be honest, Impact's mics have not been very good. But I will say, the ring looked really good. The camera work was generally alright. But there was one point that someone was going like this. Who was running the camera? And I'm going like, is that Ace Steel's influence? Because literally they don't normally do that. They don't lean the camera back and forth when they're in the ring. Because that's what happened in the beginning of the ring. In the beginning of the show. And it slowed down a lot, but either the cameraman was sick or someone said, hey, lean a little bit to make it important. In the end, what did we get? Trinity getting a submission on Mickey. And the moment was over, and this is the best thing about the entire thing. Both of them loved each other. Both of them did not want to hurt each other, but they didn't want to just let the other one just roll over them. When Starstruck was done and then modified, because she could not just beat Mickey normally, she had to do a modified version of Starstruck to really get her. And Mickey did it in a submission at least once herself. But the key, and Mickey loved that ass. I have to say it because I haven't forgotten. Because during the match, when you know how Trin grabs someone, pulls them to her butt, and wiggle it. What did Mickey do? I think I got a shot of her afterward. She went... The crazy ass Mickey Jane would love that ass. That made my ass laugh. I'm going like, did she really lick it? Just to make it look good, but she's going... After that, sorry, that's just me. I know you've seen my ugly tongue. But still, this match had fun in it. It had care for each other. And when the thing was over and after she won, not only did she release Mickey James, she hugged her. She really hugged her tightly. Because she knew how important this was. Mickey James, one of the greatest legends in pro wrestling today. One of the greatest legends. Being one of the biggest companies, and then this being the second biggest company at one point, literally has done it all. The only thing she hasn't done is gone to AEW yet. That's the only place she hasn't gone. She's been to NWA. I know, I reviewed it. And that reminds me, I did hear about NWA possibly getting a network deal with CW. If that's true, which I think it is, and if I could see it, maybe I might try to review it counting on what day it comes on. Because if it comes on a certain day with wrestling, I'm going to have to figure out what to do. But you get my point. This was important to put Trinity over for her future. She is the future of the business. She's only been in the business, since 2009? She's only been in the business, 12, 13 years? Well, how many? No, 14 years, I think. Wait a minute. 14 years. She's been in the business since 2009 when she was in FCW. So she's still young enough to still be in the business for quite a while. She's only in her 30s. She's not 40 or 50. She's still got easily another 15 to 20 years to go before she says, I'm out. So this was great to see. Finally, the final match before what we're really going to talk about. That's going to take time. The final match of the night. That would be the match that I'm glad happened. I gotta say this. I was worried about Alex because I felt they were going to let Josh regain that title and make it look like Josh was more important than Alex Shelley. I was hoping it would not, because as of this moment, if you really want to show that you have faith in someone that can bring the company forward after this, going into the next year, and I'm hoping they don't make him drop it before the end of the year. If they make him drop it next year, that's understandable. But this year, you literally took one of the original OGs of the damn company who never had a title shot that ever gave him something. Yeah, he's been X Division champion, tag champion for years, on and off, but never gave him this shot. They needed to do something different. They needed to take an old OG of the company that is still loved and respected and throw the damn title on him and see if that would drum up interest. Now, as far as I know, the company has not lost any ratings because they still go by ratings on Access TV and any other network that shows Impact Wrestling. I got to keep doing that. But I'm glad that this match happened. It was a damn good match. Between the men, this is the second best match for the men. It is. It is the second best match for the men. Not taking anything away from Chris and Kenta. That's like the third. But this is the second best match because of its story. You're trying to hype up Alex Shelley. That he's always had a chip on his shoulder. Yes, he's a nut and he goes crazy. But he had a point. No one ever really paid attention to him. He's like a Bryan Danielson when he was in WWE as Daniel Bryan. They never believed in him. They never gave him a shot, but he proved he could. And with Alex Shelley, and when he was trying to do that yep movement thing, and then he stopped, and then he said probably, you know what, I don't need to do what Bryan Danielson did. I can do what I want to do. I'm going to be me, which, for me personally, I like that. We had this match, which was a very good, very hard-hitting match. I really did like it. It was not a match where there was a lot of high flying at all. It was more wrestle moves, more high impact. Was the psychology there? Yes. I say it was good psychology, not great psychology. The great psychology was with Trin and Mickie James. I'm saying it right now. Trinity and Mickie James had the best psychology of the entire show. Not because they're women, it's just they both understood the relevance of it. Second best when it comes to psychology is Josh and Alex. And in the end, Alex won. And not only did he get respect from Josh that he shook his hand, he put the title on him. So now, like this, we are now going to see where we're going to lead with this. We're going to see where they're going to go with a Alex Shelley, particularly now that Moose said at Hard to Kill, I'm coming for you. So the next challenger is already set up for Hard to Kill in January, I believe. Somewhere in the middle of January. So that's good to see. But now that that's finished, let's get to the part that's going to be very interesting. What happened afterward? Because after it was finished, I was about to flip that off, get ready to start filming, but something told me, wait, they're showing a music video? Maybe I should wait and see. And I'm glad I did. Because they showed not everyone on the roster. They showed Eddie Edwards, they showed his wife Alicia, they showed Jordan Grace, they showed Kaz, as well as Eli. They showed, who else did they show there? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember who else. There was somebody else there. I think Macklin was there. Josh Alexander was there. And the person that went on, and it was in like a swamp. And here's where it gets interesting. I don't think I caught the image of it. But we got Kaz coming out of the water with a trunk or a box that was locked. And once he got onto the bank, put it down on the ground, and they started talking about, they thought we weren't, well, I can't remember exactly, because there's a lot to try and remember. I know I'm missing some stuff, so I'm sorry if I'm not repeating it word for word. But essentially, when you boil down to it, we did a great thing, but now it's time to do something new. It's time to get to the next level. But we can't do that. We need to go back. We need to show them what we were, what we can be, what we should be, what has to be. That's what they were doing. And then it was Josh Alexander who lifted up the box, put it down, opened it, and a huge bright light came up above their heads. And then the freaking TNA logo shows up, and it says TNA Wrestling. And I'm going like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then, after they finish the video, they zoom in on I'm sure they showed the fans on their Titantron the same thing that everyone at home saw. The very same thing with the music and what they said. And almost everybody was in the ring, along with Jordan Grace, Scott D'Amore, and everyone that was included throughout the entire pay-per-view. And Scott says, we're back. Throws the mic down, and everyone's already cheering for TNA. What the fuck? After this was done, and I'm telling you right now, after this was done, when that segment was finished and it went off the air, something told me I better find out when and how they switched from TNA Wrestling to Impact Wrestling. So I went on YouTube because I did remember they did the segment because I did watch it, but I couldn't remember exactly everyone that was there. I know that was possibly Hulk Hogan was there and Mick Foley, but I couldn't remember anyone else. So I found a video. It's on Impact Wrestling, which probably will switch to TNA Wrestling soon. After this, they're probably going to change the name from Impact Wrestling back to TNA Wrestling, Total Nonstop Action. And it was Mick Foley as the representative of the not representative network, I think representative of the company that was now controlling Impact Wrestling. I think it was the network. But as a representative, he told Dixie, Jeff Jarrett, who was there, and Hulk Hogan that what you've been doing is wrong. I'm here to straighten that mess out. This is about wrestling. And from this moment on, we're going to do what needs to be done for pro wrestling. And on top of that, we're changing the name from TNA Wrestling to Impact Wrestling. And when was that? I believe it was May 11th, 2011. May 11th, 2011. I believe that was the date, not just the name, but the date of when they transitioned from TNA Wrestling, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, to Impact Wrestling. That's 12 years. We've had 12 years of Impact Wrestling. 12 long years where they went through Destination America when we thought they were done. When we lost them at Spike. When we had problems when it came to Dixie Carter and how things were run with Eric Bischoff as the on-screen as well as a Hulk Hogan who was on screen. We know there was a lot of controversy and problems in the back because of the transition when it was being sold to Anthem. And after Anthem, and they went to Destination America, and then they went to Access TV, and literally just got buried. We didn't see anything of Impact Wrestling. It was hard for people to even watch it. And during that time, like a lot of people, trying to see it was very difficult. You had to, if you couldn't catch a live stream of it, you had to watch a recording that some websites would have because not everyone had Destination America or Access TV. Whether it was stationed in America or in Canada, not everyone could get it. And now particularly that a lot of streaming services and networks are charging you even more. It's going to even be more harder to see TNA Wrestling. But I'm going to tell you this. Seeing that they made the choice to go back to the original name, that means something. All of the clout, well, not clout, but all of the resources they had when they were TNA Wrestling could be used again. Instead of being a legacy thing, it can be reactivated. Like t-shirts, like the six-sided ring could come back. Not saying it will, but what happened if they bring it back? What happened if they bring back some of the things they did before? Hell, this is where it gets interesting. We know that Ace Steel basically produced this show, which was actually pretty good. The lighting was decently good. The camera work was actually good. The audio was choppy. There's no lie about that. The audio was choppy. Probably they got to get the new equipment for that. But he produced it. I've seen on now 2 websites. I think it was 411 Media and Ringside News, I believe, talked about, I'm sure more now haven't, but talked about him doing not just Bound for Glory, but also producing a couple of tapings to give him a test to see if he would be a good fit for Impact, because he was offered before, but he didn't take it. And that was before he went to AEW. Now that he's not in AEW, the question is going to be, will it work? And I know people are going to say, dude, what about CM Punk? Well, like I said on my Gump report, we don't know if there's a contract clause. We don't know if he signed a new clause in his contract, because remember, after the scrum, he was filling out extra paperwork. So we don't know if the original contract he had said if you're fired, you have a non-compete for 3 months or something, or a month. We don't know the paperwork after the scrum that he signed may have a non-compete in it. He had to fill that out too. We just don't know. There's still a good chance he will go to WWE. But there's also a chance because Ace Steel is there. He might show up. He could have been there. We just don't know. And also, this for me, what might be greater than just having CM Punk there? What would happen if Mercedes Moné shows up at Hard to Kill? Because think of this is just me. Right now, she just went through Mickie James. Now, of course, it's a long way from Hard to Kill, and they can have another match or two, which will not hurt them. That would be good. We may get Mickie James going up against Trinity again, but at Hard to Kill, what would you think? How would you feel if the newly rechristened Impact Wrestling, that is now TNA Wrestling, has Mercedes Moné show up? Due to the fact that now TNA Wrestling is back, the knockouts would be more prominent, even more than what it's doing now. And she thinks AEW's women, they got some stuff there. It would be nice to go up against a Saraya and everyone else there. But what happened if I go over to Impact Wrestling for a little while, do a stint there, go up against Jordan Grace, go up against Deonna Purrazzo, go up against a Mickie James, who I've never really faced? What happened if she does that? Now, this is just my belief. Doesn't mean she will. But with TNA Wrestling, which, oh my gosh, that reminds me, I have to make a new intro now. You guys see my old intro. Many people love the music for it. Many people love how I made it. But I'm going to have to make a new one. I don't know how long it's going to take me. And this is the part, and I'm almost finished. I'm almost finished with the video. But this is the part not many people, you didn't know. I was planning to work, and I was working on a music video. I was working on an Impact Wrestling music video showing the different phases of Impact when it was TNA going into Impact, including the 1000th episode of Impact Wrestling and showing the 20-year logo. I was actually making it. I was working on trying to figure out what music, because I picked the music, what images. I have some images. I don't have enough yet. I still got to work it out. But now that TNA is going to be back, I have to make a new TNA Wrestling intro for 2023 to 2024. And I'm going like, oh shit. Oh, this is going to be hard. So I have to say this now, because I'm almost finished. From now on, you will not be seeing my Impact Wrestling intro. I'll have to leave it out until I make a new intro for TNA Wrestling. I don't know if I'm going to do the music video. I might. Because the music I might do for the intro for the new TNA Wrestling might be the same music from the music video. So I don't know yet. But from now on, no more intro. You're just going to see the video bare with the images put in. Oh my gosh. This is good. The end of Impact, and long live TNA. Peace.